All right. Um, so today I'm going to show you guys just the most basic way I know how to do a hammock setup. Um, so the supplies you're going to need some webbing. This is something you can pick up at REI, any outdoors place, even some hardware stores you'll be able to pick this up at. It's kind of like a ribbon style rope. Um, it actually is in a circle that it kind of is threaded together. So if I were to push this apart really hard right now, it's burnt on the edge, so it's stuck together. But if I were to push this really hard, you kind of see a circle on it. And I can even kind of spread this out on the edges so it can do that. But if you ask anybody at a store, they'll be able to explain to you what webbing is and point you in the right direction. Ask them to make sure it's the right weight value, that it's able to hold whatever weight you're trying to do. If you have a two-man hammock and you're expecting to be able to hold two people, obviously you want it to be able to hold that. Other thing you're going to need is some rope. Again, same thing there. You want to make sure that it's able to hold the weight of whatever you're doing. You know, two-man hammocks obviously are going to need a stronger rope than just the one-man hammocks that you have. The other thing that you need with that is you need some hollow braided rope. And so what that means is when you push it together like this, see how it expands? It's just like a Chinese finger trap, if you remember those. It's just kind of this little tiny piece of a rope like this. It's wide enough that you're able to get your fingers into it, but when you pull back, after it expands like that, and then you try to pull back, it gets smaller and then it tightens up and you're not able to get your fingers out. That's basically the concept we're going to be working with in order to hang these up. Then it also allows you to tighten up the hammock and loosen it really easily, so you can really get it at that weight that you want it. The other things that you're going to want is a tension clip. You can get a couple of different things for this. This is just what I picked up. I picked it up at Ace Hardware. They were about 60 cents each. You want two of them. Basically what it is, it's a pin. It's hollow on one side, and then it has one little slit that's also cut out through one side of it, just a tiny little spot. So it's not really messing with the structural integrity all that much. And the other thing you're going to want is two carabiners. Your hammock is going to come with two carabiners no matter what. But those generally are really heavy. So I went out and bought some different ones just because I want to get as light as I can. Usually you can get these for about $5. The tension clips I got, again, for about 60 cents each over at Ace Hardware. I was able to find the rope in bulk. I need to check the weight on it. That's the problem sometimes with buying it in bulk, is they can't really tell you what the weight it's rated to is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this up and then test it out probably with one of my friends. Just set it low, and then if it breaks, it's not a big deal. We just fall a little bit. And then the webbing. So the rope I got for a total of $2 about, and I got two 18-foot sections at a outdoor shop here in town called Jack's. The carabiners will probably be about $5 each if you want to buy your own. And then again, for the webbing, I got two 6-foot sections, and that cost me about $2 as well. So it ends up being the cheapest setup that you can probably find. So what you do, first you take your webbing, you're just going to make a basic loop, just like that. And then you take that loop and you bring the other part of the rope just kind of behind it like that, and then you pull it through it. Pull that part that was behind it through it. So you kind of have that there. You can hold it in place with your finger. Ultimately, you're just putting your tension clip right in that. So it's going in the front of the part that you just pulled through, and it's going to, or behind the part that you just pulled through, and it's going to stay in front of the loop that you originally made. And then you just kind of pull that taut, pull that tight. And what you're going to end up with is a knot, just like that. The nice thing about this is once you have it, all you need to do to undo it, you just pull that tension clip out and you pull it and the knot's out. Then what you're going to do with the other side, you're basically going to make the exact same thing, do it again, put your carabiner through that. You could do another knot, doesn't really matter, but that's what I did just because I know it's an easy one to make, and then it's also actually makes it pretty easy to take the carabiner out if you want to do that. Honestly, once I make these, people call these tree huggers. So basically you have the carabiner on one side and then you have the tension clip with the knot on the other side. And so what you end up having is just something that you can wrap around the tree, and then your tension clip will go through the loop of the carabiner as well. And that allows you to have a little loop that goes through around the tree, and you can tighten that up just however you want, just like that, by going through the carabiner. So then you have that's your tree huggers. That just goes around your tree, and then the tension clip is where you're going to ultimately set your hammock. So your hammock's going to set not actually on the tension clip, but the knot right above it. And then the other nice thing about these tension clips is after you set everything up, if you buy a really skinny, tiny rope, you can just run a little bit of a rope through that tension clip, and that can hang some other things, like if you wanted to hang your clothesline there. More practically, if you bought a mosquito net or anything like that, you just thread that tiny little rope through your tension clip, tie a little knot on one end so it can't pull through on that side, run it through to the other side of your hammock, run it through that tension clip, pull it tight, and then you can hang your mosquito net off of that tiny little rope. Complicated thing is what they call the whoopee sling. And so again, we're working that with that Chinese finger trap type idea. And so what you're going to do is you're going to take kind of the both ends of the rope. One end you're going to ultimately tie right onto your net, onto your hammock. So I got mine here. It's permanently attached there. I don't ever take it off of that. So one end's going to do that. You could pull it, you could go ahead and tie it on first. I'm just going to show you how to do it afterwards, just as a demonstration. But basically what you do is you kind of pull it apart like that and get it enough so you can take that other end of your rope, and what you're going to do is that little gap, again, it's a hollow threaded rope, and so what you're doing is you're taking that other end of the rope, give yourself enough of a gap, again, to set up on that hammock, and then you want to be able to get this for about 6 inches. What you're going to do is you're going to put this end of the rope in to this side of the rope, and you're going to push it all the way through for about 6 inches, and then you're going to pull it back out. So this is one of the more delicate things. Take your time with it. So you push it apart. That allows you to get a little bit bigger hole, and then you just kind of push it through. And so right now I got half of mine. You can see these are now kind of going into this part is going into this part of the rope. And so I kind of keep pushing it through like that. Give yourself about 6 inches or so, at least, that you're getting it through like that. And then once you have that, then you push it again, give yourself another hole, and pull it back out. So now I have this part of the rope that's combining in right here in this section, and then it comes out on either end, which that ultimately what it's giving me is this just giant loop. Obviously you can't see all of that right in the frame, but what ends up happening is when I want, that gives me about 9 feet. So I attach this part. This is the part that is holding the other rope, this end, and I attach that to my hammock itself. Then what I can do is when I hold right there in the part that they're both holding together, I can just pull this other rope through, and that allows me to make that loop smaller and smaller. And so ultimately, you can see I just have a little loop right there. Okay, so if I had my hammock attached right there, right here, you can see I just have a little 2-foot section that my hammock would be reaching from the hammock part that it's connected to the tension pin that it's going to be hanging on this side. Okay, so yeah, that's basically all the setup. As far as once you want to loosen it up, then you again just kind of grab it in the middle again, grab it in the part that both of them are going through, and you just pull the one side through, and you can loosen it up. And then again, I would end up with about 9 feet that I can do it. And then the nice thing, this is where that Chinese finger trap concept kind of works. So if I were to have my hammock attached here, somehow have my hammock on the tension pin on this side, if I pull that, it stays together. It doesn't change the loop size at all. That's where that Chinese finger trap thing's working, because it's just getting this part really small when I have this loop pulling, and I'm pulling on the part that the hammock's actually on. So that's your setup. It's pretty simple.